Oh, I'll tell you what, spring is here. Spring has arrived, and I'm talking not just in terms of the bloom of the foliage. It's warm, man. It's warm. It's actually really, really, really nice to be out in these sorts of conditions, and what a backdrop. Now, in today's video, I want to talk all about something that I suppose it's been a really big change in my own approach to landscape photography, and it has completely changed the way that I shoot. It's been a game changer. There's no two ways about it. It's been a natural progression. It's definitely just been sort of accidental, but it's something that I wanted to talk about in today's video. And we're going up a Wainwright called Wallow Crag. It's going to be short and steep, but absolutely stunning. So I don't really know what type of photography I'm going to go for today, because yes, it's warm, it's temperate, it's lovely to be out and about in, but I mean, the conditions aren't like ideal as they are at the minute for a spot of landscape photography. But as always, we're going to work with what we've got. I'm thinking maybe some black and whites. You can see there's a few smaller clouds kind of dotted around and about. So I might try some black and white long exposures. I'm not sure yet. One thing I am definitely sure of, I think, you can never be too sure, and I suppose that actually ties into the topic of today's video a little bit as well, but I would like to capture some of these beautiful, vibrant spring greens as well. You know, looking down at some of these silver birch trees down here, they're absolutely glistening. They're looking fantastic. They might even look good in black and white themselves, but we'll see. Now, what got me thinking about this topic today was I was looking back at a few of my older videos. I'm actually writing a second, or actually a third ebook, but a second locational ebook at the minute, and it's all about locations that I've visited in Scotland, and I suppose that'll be coming out soon enough, you know. But it got me thinking about how my approach to my physical photo shoots have changed so much from some of the older days, you know, not even that long ago, man, maybe 3-4 years ago, something like that, even just a couple of years ago. And it's all to do with planning. I feel like I used to go out and about and plan every single photo shoot so meticulously, you know. I used to look at sunsets and sunrises and how the light was going to hit the landscape. I used to use things like Google Earth, and I just don't bother with any of that anymore. And that's pretty much exactly what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I know that this is a topic that I have spoken about now and again on this YouTube channel before, but I suppose I just wanted to dedicate this whole video to the topic, because the contrast for me just seems so stark from a couple of years ago when I was planning every photo shoot flat out to where I am now, where I pretty much don't do any planning at all. And I just wanted to share as to why I don't plan anymore. I wanted to share, in my opinion, some of the reasons why I think planning can be a bit rubbish. But with all of that being said, I definitely don't want this to just become a video about slating the idea of planning our photo shoots. I think personally, there's a time and a place for planning. I think that it can be great. I also feel like we're all individuals, you know, we're all our own photographer. You have to make a decision yourself. Planning obviously used to work for me. If you go out and plan every single photo shoot, it might be fantastic for you. You've got to find what works for you. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to know in the comments as well. Do you plan your photo shoots? Do you not bother? Have you changed your approach with your planning and stuff like that? But yeah, honestly, I think there's I suppose a handful of reasons that I want to share in this video as to why, for me anyway, planning can be just a little bit rubbish, man. A little bit rubbish, to put it simply. But we'll get into it. Right, I want to make a little bit of headway. I can hear some waterfalls actually behind yous. So yeah, let's go and explore. So I'm just going to say this whilst it's fresh in my head. A little bit of a tip. This has got nothing to do with the topic of the video, but yeah, I want to say it before I forget. I've got this habit at the minute. I don't know how it's formed, but it's a habit of jumping straight into a composition without too much thought. I don't know if it's like a bit of complacency creeping in or something, but I hate it. I think it's such a rubbish habit. It's terrible for like exploring composition. So as an example, I've just seen this little section of falls here. Straight away I'm thinking, right, I'll put the tripod here. Something like this, I'm thinking, right, I'll put the tripod here, I'll zoom right in like that, probably even a bit further than that with the big camera. And it's like I'm in a rush. It's like I've got a time limit for my composition choice or something like that. And it's so daft. I honestly think it's like one of the worst sort of compositional habits that you can have, if you will. So yeah, I suppose the tip is, friggin' take your time, man. I'm saying this to myself, stop, take your time. Even if you see something early on, explore around, you know, that original composition that you first set your eyes on is still gonna be there if you don't find anything better. So, I mean, saying that, I'm probably gonna take that friggin' photograph anyway, but I'm gonna slow down, probably put my bag down on the deck and see if there's anything better, take my time. Tripod needs to be about there, about there. Oh, as always, it's nice and sketchy down in a beck. I love getting myself in the middle of a beck, getting all my gear in precarious positions as well as myself. But I tell you what, I'm glad that I explored around even just a little bit, only for a minute or two, honestly, because I feel like, although this isn't going to be the best image in the world, I've just found a little bit of a better composition than the one that I was thinking about up on that bridge. We've got a few more cascades. We're going to have a little bit more depth in this composition, and I definitely prefer it just a little bit. So I'm glad I mentioned that tip to you because it made me remember that sometimes we just need to stop and take our time. There's no rush when it comes to composition, unless the light's amazing and you're rushing against it. But yeah, nice and simple, zoomed in at about 130 millimeters. Let's pop it up on the screen for you to see. And this is the type of photograph that I love to get, honing in on a section of some cascades and just trying to grab something a little bit abstract. I'm at about 1/5 of a second, and I'm actually focus stacking this as well because I'm so zoomed in. You know, it's quite tricky with the depth of field, and I want everything to be really sharp as we go deeper and deeper into this photograph. But yeah, it's all about the 1/5 of a second. I'm shooting it in a black and white as well, because as you can see there, it looks horrible, really murky and brown. So I think black and white is going to be a definite improvement. I think all of that brown is just a little bit of a distraction, if you will. But yeah, nice simple one to start. I'll show you this now, and this has made me think of a good reason as to why I feel like planning can be a little bit detrimental to your photo shoot sometimes. So moving on from the waterfalls, we're just going to head up these steps, up this path now, through the woodland, up towards our peak, which is going to be through all these trees here. By the way, it's a really nice woodland this as well, isn't it? I'd maybe like to see if I can get something in here, although, I don't know, the conditions probably aren't perfect for woodland photography, but we'll see. Now this brings me on to what is, I reckon, probably the main reason as to why I think planning your photo shoots can actually work against you. It can be a real detriment. And it's all to do with exploration. Now, before I get into it, I know exactly how this has all changed for me, and it's to do with these Wainwrights. Now, if you're new to my channel, to keep it brief, there's 214 mountains here in the Lake District that are called Wainwrights, and they've become like the mountains that everybody wants to climb. Probably, let's say, just like the 214 best mountains to climb in the Lake District, to try and keep it simple. And since I started doing them, there's been no reason to plan, because I've just looked on, I've got a little map at home, a little sort of checklist, if you will, of the Wainwrights. And all I do is look on that map and pretty much just point at one and say, right, I'll be going up in then for sunset or sunrise or just, you know, middle of the day, whatever. And there's no real planning involved whatsoever. And I've just loved it, man. I've loved it because it's meant that I could just slowly meander, slowly make my way up these mountains without thinking, oh, what if there's nothing to photograph though? Because I think that was always my biggest inhibition. You know, when I used to actually plan my photo shoots, was like, oh man, but what if there isn't anything to photograph? I'm doing all of this planning. There's always something to photograph, man. But yeah, to get back to my point, I realise I'm like probably babbling a little bit. I do feel like when you've got such a strict plan, such a strict itinerary, because you've sat at home spending hours planning, I always found anyway, I was so keen to just get to that one spot, so keen to follow my plan, that I didn't want to explore around, because I'd start worrying that I was going to miss the shot that I wanted, or I wouldn't get to the location that I wanted to get to in time for sunset or something like that. And I suppose this is an example. Again, that was probably a bit of a rubbish photograph, but I may have just gone straight over that bridge that I walked across and not even thought about exploring the little beck down there, because I just had a plan that I was following, you know. But again, it's what works for you. It might come down to like a bit of balance, you know, where you could plan your photo shoot, but allow yourself a couple of hours extra, get yourself there a couple of hours earlier so that you've got time to explore as well, you know. So yeah, I don't know, but that to me is definitely the main one. I used to plan photo shoots to the point where I'd basically be scared to meander away from the plan. Yeah, but anyway, a few more reasons, but we'll carry on up, see if there's anything to photograph in this woodland, and we'll just have a day of rambling to the camera and babbling away. Just feeling quite chatty today. Oh, so I hope you can hear me. I'm just continuing my way up this gill. The path's, look, it's just parallel with it there. I'm going to grab a quick shot of that little falls there in a similar sort of fashion as my previous photograph. I just like, look at the light, man. The light is kind of filtering through these trees behind yous, and it's just illuminating that nice little section of water. Look, you can see it there perfectly. It looks so cool. So similar sort of photograph, but I think it's probably going to be an improvement because the light's a little bit better. Now I'm just gonna, whoa, I'm in a dodgy position again. I'm just gonna grab a quick photograph handheld of this sort of scene here. Right, so it was one of them where I was just walking up alongside this dry stone wall here, and I looked over the left shoulder and thought, could be a little photograph here. So I don't even know if there is a photograph here just yet. Oh, so I've just grabbed a quick, like, kind of practice shot. I quite like it. I'll put it on the screen here so that you can see. So this recording, I'm actually taking the image in a 16:9 aspect ratio as well, crop. So it is going to look exactly like you're seeing it on screen there. So yeah, something maybe along those lines. If I darken it down slightly, if that's working, you can probably even see through the trees there. We've got a little bit of Derwentwater and the fells on the other side. Yeah, so something along those lines where we've got the path, the dry stone wall, and this big tree on the right hand side here is looking wonderful, how he's kind of leaning into the composition. Before I show you this image, I was just thinking about the flip side really, or I suppose why, I was thinking about it like the nitty gritty, why do I not plan anymore really? And yes, it's the Wainwrights that I'm doing have kind of changed my approach in a big way. Because like I said, I've just been picking a fell and getting on with it without much thought. But I also feel like personally, I wonder if anyone else will relate with this. Personally, I feel like I've evolved somewhat as a photographer in the sense that my priorities have changed. Now, I feel like this might sound, again, we're getting chatty today, but I've got a feeling this might sound a little bit contradictory, a little bit daft really, but my priority now as a landscape photographer is to enjoy my photo shoots. Now, to put that into perspective, my priority, I never used to think about things like that. My priority was always to try and get a good photograph. Look, of course we want to come home with good photographs all the time, but I think now, maybe it's because I do this professionally, I just want to make sure that enjoyment is top of the list all the time. And I feel like when I used to prioritize trying to get good photographs all the time, I could burn out really quickly, man, because I just get frustrated all the time. Whereas now I'm prioritizing just the fun of it. It's like I've gone back to basics, you know. I'm just taking little things like this where I'm not quite as bothered, you know. I just want to enjoy my photo shoots, and I feel like personally, with my portfolio and my photographs, I just end up getting the odd nice photograph anyway, you know. But I feel like I prioritize the enjoyment. If I plan too much, it takes away a little bit of that enjoyment for me, you know. So yeah, again, you know, a lot of these videos when I'm chatting away, I'm just thinking about things as I'm walking, as I'm snapping away. And I think that's actually quite interesting, because that's definitely true where I'm concerned. My priorities have changed, and now I feel like I'm a lot more laid back when I go out with my camera, you know, just snapping away. Right, this is fun, this is nice, the light is beautiful, I'm sweating, spring is here. I'm looking forward to actually getting up and out of the woods a little bit and getting some of those beautiful views through there over Derwent Water. Let's continue. You know what, I think actually I didn't really get my point across very well then, but the point that I was trying to make, and this is what I was thinking about, is that now that I don't plan my photo shoots, I wonder if my photographs are worse. And I'm not saying my photographs have got worse, they've definitely got better, I've grown as a photographer, but maybe they could be better if I did plan my photo shoots. And I really wanted to mention that because, like I said, I don't want to slate the idea of planning our photo shoots altogether. I always try to, try my best to look at both sides of every debate, if you will. And yeah, I was just thinking about that, like, I don't know, they could be well better if I actually took the time to plan my photo shoots. But like I was just explaining, I don't think, for now at least, I just don't think I care. I'm not bothered because I want to go out and enjoy my photography, and if I get some good photographs every now and again, which I feel like I do, you know, because I get myself out and about a lot, then that's great, you know, that'll do me for the foreseeable future at least. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Again, maybe comment below. I wonder if we did concentrate on planning our photo shoots all the time, would that then naturally mean you're just going to get better photographs? I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on. See what happens, like I said, when the views start opening out over Derwent Water. Oh mate, so we've made it up now. Well, in fact, I say that we're not quite at the top of Wallow Crag. I think we can go a little bit higher up according to the OS maps. And I know there's a nice vista up there. I have been up there before to Wallow Crag, but I came from the other side, from like round Castlerig somewhere. And this way is well better if you ever come up. Come up from like the shores of Derwent Water. There's a National Trust car park down there and stuff. That is a lovely hike up. It's called Cat Gill. Really, really recommend that route. But yeah, I just wanted to stop and show you, I don't know, man, the potential really with the light. It's so beautiful. We're not even in the golden hour yet. Look at this, mate. Beautiful sort of trees dotted around on the edge of this cliff. And you've probably just seen then as well. Look, it's all the way up. And they're glimmering. You know, we've got that real spring vibrance like I think I was talking about earlier. We've got some really nice views back into the fells of Borrowdale as well, which is lovely. They're topped with a little bit of cloud, and just, you know, photography aside as well, it just feels so lovely and still. And like I was alluding to at the start of the video, it's nice to be out and about, and it's quite warm and still, you know. At times it's been a really cold winter. I've frigging enjoyed the winter. It's my favourite time of the year to shoot landscapes, but when, you know, it actually comes around in this country, a little bit of warmth, I just think we all appreciate it, don't we? It's lovely to feel it on the skin. Gosh, I am babbling today, aren't I? It's this. This is why I wanted to stop. Look at the way the light is shimmering through those trees. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but I was watching a YouTube video the other day and somebody mentioned about a Japanese word that means it's like an appreciation of the way that the light shimmers through the leaves on trees. I'll pop it up on the screen if I find it. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. What a word, if that's all true. But anyway, yeah, I'm hoping to try and find some sort of composition with these trees that are hanging on top of the cliff here. Yeah, let's continue, see what we can find. So the frigging battery just ran out halfway through one of my big rambles to the camera on the Z30. Raging, man. So we'll start again. As you can see, we are set up here and hang on, portrait orientation. If you haven't guessed, we're doing a panorama. I'll get onto that in a sec, but I have been up to the summit of Wallow Crag just a couple of minutes ago, and it was glorious. Don't get me wrong, beautiful, beautiful vantage point over Derwent Water and the town of Keswick, and the light was fantastic. But to be perfectly honest, I just found it a little bit boring in terms of photography, and I suppose this ties into what we're chatting about in this video a little bit. But I know for a fact, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, I'd have approached this sort of photo shoot, this sort of adventure completely differently. You know, I'd have parked at the bottom of the fell, legged it up the top of the mountain basically to get to that very vantage point, to just plonk the tripod down, wide angle lens, capture that vista, and then run all the way back down the fell, back in the car and go home. That would have been my photo shoot. And you know what, actually, I've just thought this. I think when I last came up Wallow Crag, I made a video about the importance of planning your landscape photography shoots. That's a genuine coincidence. I've just thought about that now. That is mad, because what a contrast. And I'm up Wallow Crag now, what, 4 years later, or however long it is, trying to explain how now I don't really plan that much at all. Now, on that note, I'll talk about this after I talk about this photograph. I've thought about something else with the whole planning thing. We'll get into it in a sec. But this image here, I'm quite excited about this. And yeah, this excites me a little bit more than the summit. I've just wanted to photograph some of these wonderful trees as the light is filtering through the leaves, man. What a beautiful little scene we've got there. And I suppose, although very vague, that is the essence of what I'm trying to capture in this photograph. The light as it is shimmering, filtering through these beautifully vibrant spring leaves here. So panorama, like I said, probably 4 or 5 main trees there that are sort of, you know, on the edge of the cliff as we're looking over Derwent Water. 5 shots from right to left, shooting at f6 to focus on the trees, to blur out the background and the foreground just a little bit. I think that's going to look nice. But what's brilliant here is, hope you can see it, there's a contrast, a nice contrast between the glimmering trees here that I've been speaking about, and then if you just sort of look there in that gap, the shadow of the fells behind the trees. You know, them fells on the other side of Derwent Water, cat bells. We can even see, I think, a bit of red pike over near Buttermere. They are dark, they're casting shadows, so we're getting a wonderful contrast. And those fairy fells are really helping to accentuate the light in those leaves, you know. So fingers crossed that works out. I hope you like this shot. And then, yeah, I want to talk about the planning thing because I've just thought of something else. So yeah, I hope that image came out okay. It was, I don't know if it needed to be photographed as a panorama, but yeah, like I said, I like the concept of the light filtered through the nice leaves. Now I want this to be like my last point on the whole planning thing, because I think it's a good one to finish with, to give you a bit of food for thought, especially some beginners out there. Now, how do I put this? I've been really obsessed with landscape photography for, you know, however long I've been doing it, basically like several years. And I've got to the point now where, I don't mean this in like a self-absorbed way, but I'm very good at planning like a photo shoot now, purely just because I've freaking done it so many times over and over and over. So things like checking maps, checking the weather, knowing how the light's going to interact with the land, knowing when the sun sets, knowing where the sun's going to be in the sky, which location to go to for certain weather conditions. I suppose the list is pretty endless. And I'm not saying I'm frigging amazing at it or anything, but I'm just very well practiced. And yeah, it got me thinking then, maybe I actually do still plan, and I just don't take ages planning because I'm quite fast at it, I'm quite efficient at it nowadays. So when I come out, say like, I'll just use this adventure, this photo shoot as an example. Before I come out, I'm still looking at OS maps, you know, to check the route. I looked at the OS map for this route up to Wallow Crag, and I saw that there was a gill and that there was gonna be some waterfalls. So I thought, oh, I'll maybe check them out on the way. But that would have taken me about 30 seconds because I'm really efficient at just quickly looking at the OS maps on my phone. Whereas that might have taken me like 30 minutes back in the day. I don't know. You know, I don't need to check when the sun sets because I'm waking up every morning thinking about freaking photography. So I know when the sun sets this time of year. I know the Lake District so well, so I know where the sun is in the sky. I don't need to check these things on like photo pills or anything like that anymore. I used to like use the app to see where the sun was going to set in the sky. You know, I know it's spring, I've shot it so many times before, so I know the sorts of photographs I want to go for in my head. And the reason I thought about this is because I wish I remembered the name of the person who said this, but it was someone on one of my one-to-one workshops, and they said to me like, oh yeah, Henry, but you have to remember, you've been planning photo shoots for ages, so you're probably really efficient at it. And it made me think like, oh, maybe that's true, man. Like maybe I do still plan, but I'm just rapid at it now, you know, whereas things would have taken me a lot longer in the past. But anyway, like I said, I just thought that'd be a really good one to finish on, a really fair point, I think, to finish on. And yeah, good bit of food for thought, like I said. And I would love to hear your opinions on this in the comments section below. Please let me know. I think it's quite interesting. Do you plan your photo shoots, or do you just go out and see what the day brings? As always, I appreciate your support so much. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you could hit the thumbs up button, like I say, it always proper helps me out. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next adventure. Out!